The top two players, 43 food and 57 food. Our players, our Day 9 Daily viewers, BMX and Mange, have more food combined than their opponents. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment if all of these units were together with all of these units, right? If this were the case, it would be significantly harder for this to do as much damage. But the fact that it's Zealots and Marines all combined together into one focused group, oh gosh, and then here's going to come BMX's paltry force from behind. How tragic. Uh-oh. And then he's going to try to attack, so he's going to get chewed up. He has two halves of forces. And now we can clearly see that Neuromancer and Enivar have the same food count, right? Or excuse me, have 40 and 46, which is much higher than BMX and Mange's food count. Much higher. Significantly higher, as a matter of fact. That's because they didn't join their armies together. That is like the first big reason that people do tend to lose those 2v2 sorts of situations, is that literally they're not even thinking about the way that the interrelationship between their ally works at a real basic level. They'll think complicated things like, if I make Medivacs and you make Zealots, I can heal your Zealots. That's not something that Terran or Protoss could do alone. And that's great, but that's a pretty sophisticated thing you did, thinking of unit compositions that work well together. No matter what units you make, if they're together, you're going to be working a lot better. Way better, as a matter of fact. So no matter what, this is really good. So why are our early pressure strategies so good? Because they have a strong probability of splitting your opponent's army apart. Why is it so reasonable for someone to go double Roach Rush right at the outset? Well, because their opponents are likely not going to have joined up yet. So it's going to be very hard for their the enemies to deal with it. And as we see, this is working out really well. Now, for the record, Enivar didn't really get that many probes at the start, and he really just focused on getting gateways and speed. What's another way of saying that? He sacrificed a lot of economy to do this early rush. Right? Again, I don't want to overcomplicate it. He sacrificed a lot of early economy to go for this early rush. And by the way, for the record, these first two examples are pretty simple, so if anyone's just like, yeah, totally, I totally get it, it's going to increase in complexity as we go on. So they sacrificed economy in order to do this push. Let's go take a look at Terran's. If we look here, Terran actually got these two barracks before he got his orbital command. Look at that, his orbital command isn't even up yet. Wow, that's pretty huge. Now, if this were a 1 versus 1, and you were getting an orbital command at what time in the game? At the 10-minute mark, you didn't even have an orbital command finished yet. In a 1v1, that would actually be quite bad, right? That would actually kind of make you go, you should really get that up there. You really need to get your economy going a little better. In a 2v2, it is often way better to sack huge amounts of economy in exchange for the ability to join forces together. Again, it's all sort of abstract, but we can start to see concrete, insane shit happening. Oh my goodness, look at this. He's moving in here. Yeah, this attack was really successful. Enivar got to expand. He got to sacrifice huge amounts of economy, get 4 gates, sacrificing huge amounts of economy, try to tech really fast at the sacrifice of huge amounts of economy. And then with this attack, he's now expanding. In a 1v1, that's like saying, yeah, I 6-pooled and then I expanded. It sounds terrible to 1v1 logic, but in 2v2 logic, you have joined armies together. And in this case, you have killed your opponent. So now at this point, there's huge skews in 2v2s where people do big rushes like this, where they combine forces together, even if they don't do a rush, even if they just meet up right here, control maybe 1, even 2 of the Xel'Naga watchtowers, and they are in phenomenal shape for the remainder of the game. Absolutely stellar, stunningly good shape. This is the first big mistake people make. BMX tried to reinforce his ally. It didn't really work so well. So, oh, alas, alack. How frowny. He doesn't even have enough units to be able to defend this properly. He's going to try to hold on. He's stimming. Oh no, it doesn't end up working. And the tragic loss ensues. Now, a lot of times, this second half, the first half killed off this player, and the second half push won't work. That's pretty normal. But if you do the first half, kill off the buddy, and then you both start expanding, there's almost nothing the player who's in the 1v2 spot can do about it. So let's go ahead and look at another slightly more stepped up example. If I can remember this properly. So we go into the Scrub Lub folder. Go into the 6th one, because that's today. Damn it. Which one? Ah, crap. I almost knew this was going to happen. I think... No, so that's the one I'm going to do after this. I wanted to talk more about the whole point of joining armies together. I think... Oh, gosh. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. Losing to Double Rush. That's not it. Oh, that's the one actually we just watched. Searching in my soul. Oh, here we go. This is the one I wanted to do. Now, occasionally you'll hear me say things, or actually you just heard me said that you want to join your armies together. I think that's pretty obvious, right? That's really important. The other big reason people lose is because their strategy is just off, right? They have everything joined together. So this is an excellent example of this, of Yoda JM. This is the simple example. Now we're going to delve into something a little more stepped up. Yoda JM, throwing these things down. So the reason I'm emphasizing joining armies together so much is that in a lot of circumstances, you really shouldn't be joining your army together for the defense. Your ally should just be trying to die as slowly as possible, and then you win a 1v2, and that's the normal way to play it out. Now notice Jabba is going for this very fast robo. His ally is going for, a gateway and a fast robo. They're going for all sorts of fancy tech, but look, a regular straight-up standard push wins it. In a 2v2, this is going to be 90% of wins. Because really, players are going to try to do tech, try to do fancy stuff, and people still want to think to themselves that this is cheese. This is absolutely not cheese in the slightest. This is strong. Saying that this is cheese is the equivalent of saying something like doing a big economy build, like early expanding in 1v1, is cheesy because you're not teching up the tech path. Absolutely not anything you want to be thinking about. So, going to be scrolling back up. I want to point out, I believe this is the one. I ended up downloading a ton of games for this one. NBT, I think, was it. I'm actually just going to look at the names. There it is. It's, darn it. Now, we're going to watch this again about the whole joining armies together. This is a slightly more reasonable thing to do. By the way, I love when players have absolutely no idea what their opponent's races is. I don't know if you guys have ever played 2v2, but to be entirely honest, it is so hard to remember your opponent's race because you're always talking to your buddy and stuff at the start. We see No Rule sort of hanging out here. Now, what's going to happen almost inevitably is that the players who join their forces together, in this game it's going to be Cyrus, and it's going to be Rukustada. These are the enemy players. These are Day 9 Daily viewers, No Rule, and this is XX Templar XX. We're going to see them kind of have their stuff split apart. Now, I'm going to pause right here and state for the record, you want to have your forces joined together for all the obvious reasons I said. However, if someone is really pressuring you crazy hard, they're going to be the ones who really get that opportunity to have their army join together and yours not. This is the equivalent at 1 vs. 1 of saying the player who makes a ton of units gets to wander around the map freely. The player who makes a ton of defenses kind of has to sit and wait to push out. Those are the two ends of the extreme in 1 vs. 1. In 2 vs. 2, the two ends of the extreme are together army, split army. Anyone who focuses and is really battling for a together army is sacrificing economy. I want you to remember that because this is an extremely long example of this. This is a very, very great instance. So No Rule and his ally are both kind of playing defensively. No Rule's even getting sentries up. Looks like he can defend some early 2v1. And it looks like X-Templar X is doing something a little bit goofy. I mean, he's getting Reapers in a bunker. I don't necessarily recommend that, but he's getting tanks with siege mode. And here comes one of the classic 2v2 compositions of Stalkers and lots of Zerglings. Now again, to be able to do this, notice that, looks like he has a decent amount of drones. No drones. And meanwhile, look at the Protoss base. Oh, he's getting +1. That's fancy. 4 gates. No Expo. No other tech at all. They're sacrificing economy. Look at X-Templar X. He is already getting Starport. He's doing tech. Look over at No Rule. We can see that he's getting a Colossus. Great. Now, this is no coincidence that the teching players are split apart and that the not teching players are together with Army. That's the trade-off. I'm going to straight up say right now, if you are both making lots of Stalkers and Zerglings and you aren't joined up, something's wrong. There should always be a very visible key join-up part in a 2v2. So now he's swinging up. X-Templar X realizes that his tank is quite vulnerable. He's going to scoot it back. Now, I want to go to this resource counting station to just note that the players are pretty even. In the first game we saw, the very simple example of how bad it is not to have your armies joined together, it looked like our players were a little bit ahead. In this game, even though I think that the Reaper thing is a little goofy, both these players are macroing approximately equivalently. And it looks like they burned through all the Zerglings. The siege tank's doing quite a bit of damage. And we're going to see No Rule come in here, try to defend his ally. He's beginning to make a Colossus. He's getting himself supply block. Now, this is actually pretty normal for a 2v2. This should not be anyone thinking to themselves, oh god, we lost. Why? I'm going to say it again. Because they started as the teching, split up players. And the aggressive Army together players are behind on economy, behind on tech. Right? So this is normal. This is actually quite normal. We're going to see No Rule come here to defend his ally. If for some reason X-Templar X was going Mass Marine and No Rule was going 4-gate, this would be horrible for X-Templar X and No Rule.